Carry me away, lift me from this place, ease my burdens, Lord. Take me to your world, let me see your face, carry me away. When I close my eyes, I can see your face, and an ocean of love washes over me, and I am in your presence. Carry me away, lift me from this place, ease my burdens, Lord. Take me to your world, let me see your face, carry me away. When I hear your voice, the power of your word, oceans of peace flood right through my heart. I live for you, and I embrace your holiness. Carry me away, lift me from this place, ease my burdens, Lord. Take me to your world, let me see your face, carry me away. Carry me away, lift me from this place, ease my burdens, Lord. Take me to your world, let me see your face, carry me away. From this place, ease my burdens, Lord. Take me to your world, let me see your face, carry me away.
Hello and welcome to another SDA Q&A. I'm your host for today, Peter Dixon, and I'm really pleased to welcome my very special guest, Rochelle Bews. How are you, Rochelle?
I'm excellent. I feel like I'm always multitasking when I'm here with you, Peter.
Me too. I kind of go into a zone and I see myself getting drinks and clicking buttons. It's great to have you here. Just a quick tech thing. If someone's watching, just put in the comments if you can actually hear the audio okay. I've had a lot of problems in the last few weeks with a kind of a clicking sound coming from my end, and I think it's because of my distance from my Wi-Fi router. So I'm trying a microphone that goes into the web browser. So just let me know if you can hear okay, and if you're noticing any of those little chirpy sounds. I'd love a bit of feedback there. Look, today's topic, we're responding to a post that was put up in on one of the SDA groups there. And it's complicated, nuanced, aggravating, upsetting. There's positive and negative in there, and I don't even really know where to start. But I thought I'd bring up the post first just to show everyone what we're talking about, and then we're going to chat about it, and we're going to perhaps try and dig deep as to why there has been such a response to it and why so many people seem to be polarized from support and a lot of us are incredibly upset as well. So I'll just bring that up and let's see if I can do that. I'm not sure if this mutes my audio. Can you still hear me, Rochelle?
I can still hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, so here is... thanks, Adrian just wrote and said the sound is good. That's good. So here's the post. Seventh-day Adventist Church in Australia. We're so happy to welcome back administrators from all 9 conferences to our office this week, with only a few joining via Zoom. They are here for several meetings, etc., etc. And then we look at the picture, and I think one of the first comments was, "Where are the women?" And that kind of started that whole conversation. Now, before we get into it, I do want to really thank Terry Johnson, who is the AUC president, no doubt officiating over that Facebook group we just saw there. I want to thank him for leaving that post up. Often when there's been controversy on an official Adventist post, it's taken down pretty quick. And there's nearly 700 comments and sub-comments and whatever on there. So I just want to thank Terry and for leaving it up there and allowing for this conversation to continue. And I'd invite Terry to join me on the program. I'd love to hear from him.
Love that too, actually.
Yeah. Now, so I'm going to get you to do most of the talking, but I just wanted to set a quick frame for the conversation and get your opinion to start the ball rolling. So I'll just read a couple of things here. Excuse me. So I'm reminded of this, for me personally, as equating a little bit to the civil rights movement. I see this as a human rights issue, and I see some connections with Adventism and the civil rights movement. And in the late 50s, the General Conference in their cafeteria, it was segregated. In the late 60s, 1968, Southern University finally being, I think, one of the last university or schools in America to allow a Black African American to become a student. And I'll come back to that. But here's the famous story of Rosa Parks. It'll take 30 seconds. This is just from Wikipedia. Talks about when she was born. She died in 2005. She was an African American civil rights activist. And Parks is best known for what she did in her hometown of Montgomery, Alabama, on December 1, 1955. While she sat in a seat in the middle of the bus behind the 10 front seats that were saved for white passengers, the bus driver told her to move to the back of the bus so a white passenger could take the seat toward the front of the bus. During this time, when the seats reserved for white people on the bus were full, black people were told to get up out of their seats. Parks, of course, as we know, refused to move. And this is interesting, she was already a member of the local chapter of the National Association of the Advancement of Coloured People. And like so many others, she was tired of being treated as a lower class person because of the colour of her skin. Now, that's where I want to draw the parallel there. Obviously, civil rights movement affecting the culture at the time. She made a stand. Boycotts happened. 381 days later, it caused a change in the law, and effectively the whole civil rights movement kicked off. Adventists at that time responded a little bit slowly. Rosa Parks got lots of flack post her decision to make a stand. There were other people that stood up that refused to move to the back of the bus. But for some reason, Rosa Parks galvanized it, and it was a coordinated, organized effort. Okay, so as we look back on that time period, we go, wow, how could people have treated people differently based on colour? Yeah, sure, that happens still. How could the Adventists have been so slow to act on this? And all of us now smugly look back and go, well, we wouldn't let that happen today. Give me your thoughts on women's rights, women's ordination, being segregated based on your gender. Do you see the parallels I'm seeing? And where are the Rosa Parks of the Adventist movement that want to see this kind of equality and justice prevail?
I think something that is underspoken about when we talk about Rosa Parks is that she wasn't just an ordinary person who just happened to take a stand. She'd actually been a political activist for quite some time there. She had been thinking about it, considering it. She'd been attending meetings, and she took this time when it was, when she was personally prompted by it. But it came off the back of quite a lot of activism that she'd already been involved in. I think the thing that really strikes me about that is that institutions are incredibly slow to change. And we all know that, we all acknowledge that. But I think it is really clear from this image that we have been hiding behind that excuse for a really long time. I look at this image, and the thing that broke my heart about it is that I understand why this was posted. These people were really pleased to be back, and as we all are, like, I understand that excitement, and the scary thing about it is that nobody who was in that photo, who took that photo, who decided to post that photo, who put that up, understood that this was going to be a divisive moment. They just weren't seeing it. And the thing that I find so fascinating and so frustrating in the comments as I read through how people are responding to it is that there is so much defense of what this photo represents from people who claim to be supporting women's equality. What strikes me is that the people who are defending it are people who say, we are moving towards women's equality, we are making big steps, there is nothing to criticize here. But without actually looking at this photo and saying, wait, there is obviously something to criticize here. We can all see what there is to criticize here. And it's a form. At what point are we going to look at it and recognize that this is gaslighting, this is denying the obvious, that this is in complete denial about the reality that is so visible to all of us? The shocking thing about this photo is it is not a shock to anyone who's interested in gender issues in our church.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I was pondering the Rosa Parks thing, I did a little bit of research into criticism she got post that.
It's
And
interesting.
the criticism that myself and others have received in the last few days is similar. I wonder if back in the day, if well-meaning Adventists and Adventist leaders, when confronted with people who were on fire for there to be equality within the topic of race, I wonder if they were treated in a similar way with subtle ad hominem put downs.
The degree of shaming towards people who try and make a difference, and this is a theme that I really feel convicted by, the degree of shaming to people who actually speak out from people who claim to have shared goals. So people say, I support women's equality, I support all of these things, and they are the ones here saying, it is sad that you are being so critical. Why can't we support these good men? God has led and put them there. You need to follow God's plan for his church. That these are all shame-based tactics to keep people quiet and to stop people from protesting. And these are from people who are supposedly supporters of women's equality. When you look through the comment threads, and there's a lot on your personal page, Peter, and there's a lot on the actual page it was posted on, the only people who are confident to directly speak out are people who are defending it and saying there's no problem with it. That should tell us so much, which is that there is shaming about people who speak out about this issue. The number of people who said that, it was a bit sad that you were criticizing, they made those personal shame-based critiques. That's not people who are being on the side of women's equality. And I think if people can't even speak up about it without being shamed and without being critiqued, that should tell you that there is no progress to women's equality. If we can't even speak honestly about it and openly about it without being shamed for pointing out very obvious problems, there's no progress.
Yeah, look, I'm going to read a couple of those comments, not to criticize the people. I'm not going to mention names, but because I want to highlight how subtle this kind of thing is. And each one of these comes from people who behind the scenes want women's ordination to happen. And it comes from the leaders behind the scenes. So behind the scenes, they're telling us changes are happening, it's coming.
But it wouldn't have to be behind the scenes if there weren't something shameful about being in front of the scenes with it. We keep being told to not protest because behind the scenes, our leaders are doing what they can. If it is not shameful, stop doing it behind the scenes. It is something you should be proud of. If you truly believe in the value of equality, then there is nothing wrong with speaking out for it. And I'm really tired of this behind the scenes approach. If it were effectively happening behind the scenes, there would be no silencing on this discussion, because you would believe that equality was the right way forward and you would be moving there.
I love the word you used there, proud. You would be proud to stand up for it.
I am proud. I am proud to stand up for women's equality. I stand in front of anybody and say that. And I do not feel ashamed. I don't feel like I need to watch my language. I don't feel like I need to seduce or cajole or lay out a tiny line of treats to gently lead people towards equality. This is actually boldly what I believe in. And where are our leaders who also boldly believe in it? I think the main thing I took, and these are names. I know you don't want to name them, Peter, but these are the names that I've grown up respecting and honoring as leaders in our church. And they are the people saying, shh, stop talking about it. It's happening quietly. It's happening behind the scenes. There's nothing shameful about equality. Let's preach it, literally.
Yeah, I love that you've raised that. It's a good perspective.
I also just want to say, Peter, I know Peter and I have different views on this, because, Peter, you keep reaffirming that these are good people, that you don't want to shame anyone personally, that you don't want to name anyone. I feel quite differently. I respect on your program that's where you're coming from. But these are people who are putting their name to their statements. I don't think anybody should be afraid to stand behind their words. These words are embarrassing. These words are the thing that I think is shameful, that people who believe in women's equality are speaking this way, who are trying to silence others, who are putting up the "there's nothing to see here" wall, that are stifling what should be a moment for change. Whenever you get a large bulk of people gathering around a moment, you have a chance for momentum. Where is the leadership who is seizing that? And if you are not seizing it, you are obstructing it. You are getting in the way of women's equality. And I think that should be called out by name.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm starting to shift my view on that to be more in alignment with you. I think what I'm also noticing is that within systems, that there seems to be cardboard cutout template people that are going to just come up, and so
Phrases. Yeah.
sometimes the names are almost not important because they're going to be there anyway. But I do think, and what's interesting is that all these people that were criticizing me are doing it in public. And so they are putting their name to it. I'm just going to read a couple just to show people, I guess, a little bit of my reaction to some of them, because a lot of people like to say, "Oh, you're just angry and bitter," and I'm not. I'm really actually happy with life. Isn't it funny?
No, I'm a bit angry that there was nobody who recognised that that photo was a problem. I actually am.
Yeah, yeah. The first thing they said was, "Hey, I know these people, and they're good people."
Oof, I know.
Yeah. So one of the ones that was on one of the posts, that's harsh and judgmental in my view, Peter. Having belonged to that group once and knowing most of them, I would say they are not smooth and are there to sincerely grow God's kingdom. And if you know the process, there is no way it's a boys' club. I would have thought, Peter, that as a follower of Jesus, you would not have made comments like that. Bit sad, mate. Like, I read it with that tone because
I know, I was laughing at your
I'm,
tone.
I'm like, are you not aware that that can be read with that tone?
No, it's intentional. It's a shaming, it's a silencing, it's a judgment, that is intended to silence you and shut you down. And I repeat again, if you are interested in women's equality, you take these moments and move forward, you take the momentum. And if you are a leader who is seeking to silence progress forward, if you are shaming people out of that using these tools of humiliation, of judgment, of loving criticism, then you are responsible for holding back that progress. And that's why I think people should be named, because this is not a system. These are active human beings taking a line that is holding back women's equality. If you want to put your hand up and be a leader, then we have the right to judge you on your leadership.
yeah, yeah. So I've been calling out recently, and again getting a fair bit of flack for it, what I'm calling OEPs, ordained employed pastors. In recent times, some people have been saying, "Oh, when I was ordained pastor, I spoke up in support of." I've been calling out recently. Oh, I can hear another audio coming through one of the channels there. Where was I? Can you refresh my memory?
Sorry, I lost it too. I lost the audio myself.
Funny audio glitch there.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, the silence. So the OEPs. I'm getting a lot of flack for that, and a lot of people are saying, no, you're just not seeing it. There are ordained, employed pastors speaking up. And I keep saying, okay, well, show me where they've spoken up publicly. And I usually get, well, ask this person, that person knows, or this person, I've heard them say something, but I want to find it somewhere publicly. And usually when I find it, these guys have spoken up in support of women in ministry and women's ministries. Can you talk into that a little bit? Because that frustrates me. And I want to invite a pastor who is ordained, employed, come on the program and share your support of women's ordination, if you indeed do support women in ordination.
You can see in the pattern of comments that ordained, employed ministers are only comfortable speaking up if they are disagreeing with women being moved into leadership roles. So the only way you are comfortable to speak up is if you agree that we need to follow the world church, which is a euphemism for maintaining the status quo. You only speak up if you are not expressing actual support for ordaining women and allowing them to move into the positions reserved for ordained ministers. That's it. It's that simple and that straightforward, which tells me that officially or unofficially, there is a silencing edict in place. There is no other explanation that makes sense. It has either been an official request for these men to not speak publicly about it, or an unofficial request where they get punished for speaking about it. Nothing else explains the almost total public silence on this matter. There should be no risk for men saying, I believe women should move into this place. There should be no risk for that. But we see that only one side of this argument is allowed to be spoken publicly, and therefore we know that there is a silencing happening on it.
Yes. And that comment that I read just then, imagine could have been equally said to someone back in 1968 when someone might have been opposing the slow rate at which Adventists were accepting the dissolution of segregation. I can imagine someone with a nice voice calming an activist in the church and saying, I'm a bit sad that you're speaking up so harshly about this. In 30 years' time, when people look back at all these conversations that we've been having, do you think people will go, wow, I can't believe it. Why weren't they standing up?
Well, let's talk about, I think in 30 years we'll be having the same conversation.
Yeah. That you've
Your-
nailed it. That
Your
is,
optimism is, I am going to be 75 and still pushing the same barrel.
and you know why? That's why I left, because I noticed the 30-year cycle when I was 30, and I'm noticing it again now, and I'm like, this. And I then researched it and saw it happening way back, and I thought this is an unusual loop. A lot of people say, well, this happens in all different organizations and all different religions. So does that mean we should be quiet about it? And I do think it's unique within Adventism. Do you see something unique about it as well? Within Adventism, there seems to be an impossibility to break the loop. Do you see it? What do you think
I
about
think
it?
it's self-selecting. I think what gets promoted is people who will toe the party line. And I think, look, I don't think it is unique to Adventism. We're having this conversation on a national level right now. I mean, you talk about Grace Tame and whether she should be smiling at the Prime Minister. Do people who are oppressed have to be polite to the systems which are oppressing them? And my argument goes a step further, which is that those systems are not impersonal. There are people who hold these positions. There are people who make these choices. Those people have taken on the role of leadership. It is literally their job. I'm not even being metaphorical here. It is literally their job to lead us, to not keep us in a stagnant cycle. We are not, we shouldn't, I don't see anything in our identity that should make us a cyclic, repetitive, stuck institution. And yet we seem to go out of our way to create a setup in which it's not just women who get given the message that they should play nice. It is men who are being told they should play nice. We are all being told to play nice on this topic. And niceness does not move us forward here. Niceness is not how change happens. Niceness allows for the status quo.
Yeah.
It wasn't nice for Rosa Parks to say, I'm not moving. That's not nice. It's not compliant. It's not hoping something will happen behind the scenes. It is being the scene. It is making the scene. And the language is really empty. The language is placating us. The language is so soothing, and we're meant to be asleep. We are being put to sleep on this.
Yeah. And I think when I look at society at large and other religions, I do see a 2-step forward, 1 step back. But with Adventism, I just see 2 steps forwards, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Well, you look at the defense of these guys, right? I believe that these guys have been given this job to lead us, and instead they are maintaining us. And there is a difference between leadership and management, and we seem to have a whole bunch of men who are managers. And if I look at the defense of them, it is, these are nice men, these are good men. I'm sorry, you're not employed to be nice, you're not informed, you're not employed, you're not chosen for a leadership role to be good, because that's not leadership. It's such a gap in how we understand. It makes me actually wonder, do we do appropriate leadership training? Where is the sense we're being given? What is this culture that tells us that maintaining, that compliance, that niceness, that passivity is the way forward into promotion?
Yeah, good point. Good point. I had a high-level leader write to me behind the scenes. One other interesting thing, I had 6 people in the last 2 days say, this is the tipping point for me. I am now leaving the church. How do I go about it? And surely you'd think the leaders, and I think what Terry Johnson is doing is leaving the post up, because he's going, hang on, hopefully, I'm listening to this. I'm realizing that these aren't just fringe crazy people speaking.
Do you know, bless you again for your optimism. I don't. I think that the perception of silencing can fuel a fire. I think deleting it would cause more of a pushback than they would like to deal with. I think the best thing from that perspective, and I honestly genuinely believe that the intention at this point is to keep us passive. When I look at the comment that Terry Johnson actually made, as our union president, I take these fair comments to heart and appreciate the passion and sentiments shared. Where is your passion? Where is your sentiment? Why didn't you feel this way when you looked at it? People who do believe in women's equality feel something when they look at this. None of these people felt that. Where is that? I read the disappointment. Where is his disappointment? What I'm saying to you is that this is designed to pretend that we are being heard, but this is not going anywhere. We can do better. What better? What is the actual target? We must, through the processes that we have, and you see that these processes are, there is no process for this. I do feel incredibly sorry that he then tried to name check. It's the whole, I have black friends argument, tried to name check these women who were not in the image. And what does that say? That you've got a situation where you're claiming, but these women are the ones who are not in the leadership meeting?
I know. And I made an error where I read out somewhere that young people are leaving at a rate of 60%, and was called out on it, told that I'd lost a lot of people for my cause because I'd said that without fact checking.
No, and I want to speak to that specifically. If you believe in the cause, if you are genuinely convicted by women's equality, then other people saying things will not change your core belief.
Yeah, exactly.
I have never once changed my core belief on women's equality because I might disagree with a more radical feminist. I think of radical feminism in Australia, and Clementine Ford's the name that comes to mind. I don't agree with everything that Clementine Ford says. A lot of it's too far for me. That doesn't change my commitment to equality because I'm sold on that. That's one of my core central values. There is no thing that other people can say that will rock your belief in your core values. And the fact that you've lost fans or set back your cause by being too aggressive just tells me that these people were not committed to your cause in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And when I found the percentage where I had found it is in an Adventist article that says around,
of course it is. We've all heard these statistics, right?
2% of Christian people, and they were saying, so you got it wrong, it wasn't Adventists. And I said, well, how many Adventists leave? And they said, well, it's around the 40%. And I'm thinking, 40% of young Adventists are leaving. That's pretty serious as well. Can I share another thing? Last night I got a message, as I was saying, from this other high-level Adventist guy, and I think I can see why they're delaying it. He said, "We're waiting to see if Ted Wilson gets in again." What are your thoughts on that? Well, he's
Is
saying
it
that
not?
they're worried.
This is my point. Is this the morally right action or not? Where are your ethics, and why are your ethics not tied to your backbone?
Mm. Yeah.
There are other areas of Adventism that have moved forward on this issue, regardless of Ted Wilson. Why are we so tied to something that we believe is ethically wrong? And the answer is because they're not convicted. And I am tired of mealy-mouthed platitudes pretending that we're all in agreement when we are not all in agreement.
Yeah.
I read a fantastic comment on your personal page, Peter, which was, what we walk past is what we agree to. And I believe the culpability of walking past is higher the higher you are up on the responsibility ladder. And if you take this role, and I'm not saying it's an easy role, goodness me, no. Please don't think that I think this is easy. But I'm saying if you are a person of conviction, I'm going to say man of conviction because they are all men, we just saw it. If you're a man of conviction, then have your conviction.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then it's because you are not that convicted. There are things that I would never be able to do or say because they go against my conviction. There are positions I would never be able to take because they go against my convictions. If this convicts you, make the move.
Mm. What's your thoughts on this comment I got behind the scenes? My husband is a high-level Adventist leader, and he really supports women's ordination. And he even hired a woman in his workplace, so women are being included in women's ministries.
Oh, bless. And look, in the 90s, I remember, this was when I became of age to this issue in the 96. I remember when that was the first barrier, and we do let women work in pastoral roles. Are they ordained? No. And as long as that ordination term becomes a barrier to moving upwards in terms of influence, in terms of leadership, in terms of power, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you speak into the many comments that were on that wall from women who were supporting these guys?
Oh, yeah.
And commissioned women doing pastoral work who are, again, doing a great job. It's me being positive once more. What kind of things going on where you can tell they want more movement, but they're also being positive?
This is the silencing. These women are in these roles so that they are saying exactly what you're seeing them say and going only as far as you're seeing them go. And I think we can all see that, and that does not lessen my respect for the work that they actually do. And I think to commit yourself to this kind of career path is so beautiful and so inspiring in the hope that it will change in your time. And I think there is some of that. There is hopefulness because, you see these women and they do need that hope. Or how do you keep going? That they are recognized as equals, that they're not being trotted out as, they're not being trotted out as a public marketing tool. That's not the expectation, even though in my opinion it is part of the expectation that women will come out the front and do the defending here because it looks better from a woman. And I do think that is an expectation. But I do want to mention in this context internalized misogyny and what decades of internalized misogyny will do to a community culture. And that's why my real scorn on this is reserved for leaders, is because this is their job. I don't think, and I see the comments that you're getting publicly. I assume that what you're getting privately is even more intense. You're setting things back. This is not the will of God. Follower of Jesus wouldn't. These are good men. And it was the classic array of silencing was on display there. And women hear that too. And so that is powerful. And I've spoken about this, I think, with you before. It is powerful when people shame you. It is powerful when people tell you that you are not enacting the word of God, that you are holding back the kingdom, that you are destroying the will of the mission of God and Jesus to be spread to the world. Those things mean something to people. And so you are told that you have to swallow your desire for equality, to be seen, to be recognized. And so you take on the oppressive standards that are surrounding you and you do conform to them. And that then becomes internalized misogyny. It becomes part of your worldview. Your misogyny is built into how you understand your spirituality. And I believe that's abusive. I believe that that is abuse. I believe that, and this is where we're different, Peter. I think this has to be called out. It is abusive. It is gaslighting. It is disgusting. Every leader who tells this to people who speak out is participating in spiritual abuse and needs to be called to account for it by name. And I have loved some of these people in my life and they have been powerful to my journey. But I am sorry, your goodness in one area does not cancel out your abuse in another area. Your niceness here does not overcome your abuse here. And it is abusive. It is spiritual abuse to say that women cannot be equal.
Yeah. Wow. Powerful. Powerful.
A lot of abuse, like people seem to think that abuse happens from bad people who are bad all the time. It does not. Even in the area of domestic abuse or physical abuse, the abuser is nice a lot of the time, and there are reasons to stay and all of those things. And that is why we participate and we put up with it. The abuser will tell you it is your fault. You brought it upon yourself. The abuser will justify it. We are moving towards it. I'm working on myself. All of those things are classic abuse tools. If you transfer them into the realm of spiritual abuse, you will see what is happening right here. And I want to know how they are looking at themselves in this photo, in the mirror, and not seeing that.
Yeah. Agreed. They're offering false hope and being...
I know that's stronger than how you like to talk about it, Peter, but I don't see any other way of doing it. And I think the expectation that we be nice I genuinely perceive this as spiritual abuse. Really genuinely perceive this as spiritual abuse. And to ask me to be nice, to ask me to be quiet, to ask me to believe that change is happening behind the scenes perpetuates that abuse. So who are you to say that?
Yeah. I'm loving what you're saying. I'm not in any way thinking that you're...
I know I've alienated quite a few people. I recognize that. But
No,
I also
I
think
don't
it takes a moment to stand up.
Yeah. No, don't think that I'm not wanting you to speak like this at all. I'm encouraged by it, and I think the story's not over, and I think these guys are really, in many ways, just getting a little bit of a warning, because
Well,
pretty
I'm glad they're talking behind the scenes. I
you must
don't
start calling them out publicly.
I don't trust that in the conversation happening behind the scenes that anyone looked at anyone else and said, "How did we get here?" I don't believe that anyone said, "This is terrible." I don't believe anyone said, "This is ethically unacceptable. What can we do?" I don't believe anyone said, "It's time to make the change." Do you know what I mean? I don't believe that happened. I believe what happened was that they said, "Oh, people are riled up. Oh, how do we soothe this? How do we manage this?" I believe that conversation happened. I believe people said, "Oh, Peter's being a bit angry." I believe that happened. But I don't believe they said, "This is despicable. This photo has woken me up. I am literally seeing something that I should have seen before. I'm going to commit." Can I say, I also will say that someone's just commented about Ray Roenfeld, and I was lucky enough to have him, and he and Norm Young started me on this path. Before this point, I did not believe that women deserved equality before those two men spoke. Which is, honestly, does that not tell you about the church culture that I came up in?
And Ray, if you're watching, please come on the program and let's talk about this. I think I'd love to have your voice. And I think what I'm hoping too, Rochelle, is that, I'm getting lots of public and behind the scenes anger, saying I'm cajoling people and all this sort of stuff.
I am cajoling. No, honestly, I will take this as I am. I'm doing more than cajoling. I am confronting. I am rebuking. Please take this as all of those angry words that you want to use. Yes, I am. That photo is disgusting.
And what I'm saying is, yes, I am cajoling too. Come on the program, prove me wrong, and so that I'm not talking about you behind your back. Come and share your thoughts. OEPs, come onto the
Can
program.
someone in a position of responsibility genuinely come on here and say, I do believe in women's equality. We are willing to break away on this. I personally am advocating for that in these administrative meetings. If someone would say that, I would be shocked. Who is doing that? Why
Yeah.
can't you name yourself? Because if you exist, come out. That's not a shameful position. And the fact that it is so shameful that you can't say that tells me something very deep is wrong in our
Yeah.
culture.
Kylie Dalton Stacey wrote on one of the comments under that picture somewhere. I'd love to see a revolution of ordained men willing to lay down their privilege in order to bring justice. And I thought, boy, that's worth commenting on.
What a beautiful request. I just, I keep coming back to the line that was said to you, this isn't a boys' club. And I just look at the picture. Look at the picture. This is a boys' club. Can we just be honest about that? This is a boys' club. Are there positions of leadership in our organisation that women are not allowed to hold by reason of their gender?
Yeah.
Is that true? If that is true, then this is a boys' club. I don't know why we can't just say that straight out. This is a boys' club.
Yeah. And another...
And we do have to think, and enough of this about servant leadership and people doing powerful work without recognition, enough of that. If there is a leadership hierarchy, if we are willing to accept that our leadership is a valuable thing, and we should, our leadership should be a valuable position. Our leadership should be something that we respect, that we understand as an important position. And if that's true, if the leadership is important, there should not be a gender cap on it.
Yeah. A woman in one of the comments wrote, well, it's only the top job that women can't get.
I didn't see that. Oh my goodness. Well. See, I don't know who said this comment. Male ministers in Australia have asked that their ordination credentials be changed and have been told they cannot. That's a policy. That's a policy that maintains the status quo, that refuses to say we rebel, that refuses to say we believe in this. That tells us if you are told you cannot make a protest without throwing away the whole thing, it is designed to keep you quiet.
And also, I discussed this with a few Adventist pastors in season 2, and not only were they not allowed, some of them said they didn't want to because it did affect something to do with their not sustentation, but their soup or something.
But this is it. It shouldn't be about individual men. Sorry, I do live in a very loud area. It shouldn't be about individual men having to personally sacrifice. Why is this not a group movement? How have we got to the place in 2022 when we have a group of men who are out there not understanding that their collective movement needs to be towards this? And I saw people said a whole bunch of misleading things about, oh, you're arguing for quotas, you're for this, for that. I'm not arguing for quotas. I'm saying remove the restrictions, remove the unspoken barriers to that position. So move the official and the unspoken barriers to women being in those roles. Like, you will get women.
Yeah.
What are those barriers? Why have you got a position where you're saying you have women leaders, but they're not at your meeting? What is the barrier to that? It's not a coincidence. It happens over and over again. So ask yourself, what is the barrier to that? Yeah. This cannot be a healthy organization while you are sick at heart.
Yeah. Someone has said that you'd be a great epic conference union president. What stops you from kind of getting into the politics of Adventism yourself?
I love what I do. I'm a classroom teacher and I love it.
One of the things that I noticed with the Sister Rosa Parks scenario, it's just gone from my head. So many things are going through my brain.
Honestly, so many things.
Oh, look, yeah, it'll come back to me. But there are lots of parallels with that scenario. She got so much flack after that she had to move. I might, just to see if it jogs my memory, I might read a couple of really great quotes.
I don't understand where the fear is. There are examples around the world of other, other conferences, other places making these changes. It's too late for us to be the flag bearer for equality. It's too late for us to do that. But can we not just support? Can we not follow in what we say we believe? I mean, we point to the fact that we believe that women's ordination is biblical. We have released statements saying that this is no longer controversial. This should not be a matter for debate. I don't even know why we're debating women's equality. In a belief where we understand that Jesus has removed those barriers. I believe that.
Mm.
So this is what we think. So why? We're not even being the first. So can we not just do anything? Anything?
I remember what I was going to say with Rosa Parks. Why isn't there a Rosa Parks? And why, when we have such a really good template of what happened with her and that whole civil rights movement, the one word boycott, why has that not happened within Advent?
I was going to ask if you used that word.
Why is there not a Sister Rosa Parks? Well, I believe there are, but I just think the time's not right. Because Rosa Parks was involved for 10 or 12 years before that spark, before that moment. And I believe that maybe that spark's about to happen within the Adventist Church. So just give us an idea of your thoughts on why it hasn't happened yet, and the thought on the term boycott as seemingly being the only effective move in this scenario.
It is, to me, not a radical difference, because I don't believe that fundamentally, if you have God-centered women leading our church, I don't believe that it will be fundamentally separate from having God-centered men leading our church, right? I don't actually think some weird, strange thing will happen. And therefore, I don't believe this is such a big ask. Does that make sense?
Mm.
But I understand that for some people, they think that this will be a radical transformation of our church. And I'm a religion teacher. One of the things I do is teach religion. And we teach students, we teach high schoolers that to dynamic living religions have a tension between continuity and change. They always do. So what do we hold on to and what do we shift? And that's what keeps a religion alive, is that balance of tradition and change. And I think people are afraid that this is a change too far.
You're speaking to the word boycott, that if they were that radical?
Yeah.
Because a lot of women are speaking up, a lot of good things are being done. Like, I think of Joy Butler and her work for the last 50, 60 years.
Forever, right?
Building. She's the pearl of Adventism with regards to being in a terrible situation and a beautiful pearl coming forth. The work she has done for years and years and decades, and many women like her. So we're not putting any slant that's negative to that.
The thing with Joy Butler, and I don't know Joy well personally, I do follow some of what she does, and I'm aware of her. She's such an activist. She's such an action-focused, powerful human being who makes things happen, who sees clearly, who has an eye for justice. She's one of God's warriors, quite genuinely, and such a practical person.
Mm.
Having her in a position of leadership wouldn't if she was our division president, if she'd been our division president, nothing but good would have happened there. Do you know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. She's an incredible human being who would have brought a lot. Those gifts channeled systemically instead of in her sphere would have been fantastic, but not traumatic. They wouldn't have fundamentally altered the nature of our relationship with Christ. None of that would have happened. I would have loved to see that on the scale that actual leadership allows for, because she is a world changer.
And imagine if that picture represented LGBTQI plus, if it represented women, people of colour, disabled, people that aren't ordained, just people right for the job. What an amazing church it would be if those leaders represented the church.
And and this is it. I think, I did see people saying, I don't believe in systemic oppression. I don't believe in quotas. None of that's in question at this point. And I'm not looking for a pretty picture that has a disabled person and an LGBT person. And, I'm not looking for the United Nations of, I'm not doing any of that. All I'm saying is remove the barriers and your leadership should look like your congregation. Yes. If the barriers are removed, your leadership will reflect the body.
And I guess this comment, again, I'll put it up, came up before, and how do we remove the barrier? And I guess that, again, makes me ask the question.
Boycott. You want to boycott, Peter?
Maybe. Is that one of the ways that can bring
a boycott is happening naturally? I think people who cannot bear to maintain having this same discussion forever leave. You have a natural boycott where people who are active, people who cannot toe the line, leave. How many did you say? You got 6. You got 6 people saying that they would leave. These are people who care about equality, and so that shifts. I mean, people ask me why I'm still associated with Adventism, and this is one of the reasons. Because when you take all of us out of the pool, what's left is conformity, is quietness, and I know that's one of the things that you don't necessarily have a problem with, is if the church has a clearer and more defined identity. I think the ones who care do leave. I think the ones who care do leave. So that depletes the pool of what exists there and who is able to speak. And I am a teacher because I believe in children and I believe in our future generation, and I do not think it is fair for children to be born into a situation and to be raised in a church that doesn't value them. And so those of us who do care cannot all leave. We cannot all leave.
I mean, that's why I left, because I thought I can't bring my children into it. Why do people tell me, oh, you've left, you can't speak into it anymore? Oh. Why is that?
I don't know. Honestly, that's so silly. You get a certain set of insights when you're in it, and with a little bit of distancing, you might get some special extra insights. It's not even like you're full of bitterness and hatred. These are just interesting conversations that you're having, and you're so transparent with what you think about it. I don't know. It's a threat. I think people find it threatening. It's just another tool of shaming. You're in, you're out, you're one of us, you're not one of us, therefore you can't speak.
Jodine, as a party, has written, what do we hold on to and what do we shift exactly?
For me, it is so clear that this relationship is one that I have with Jesus, that this form of Christianity for me is an expression that helps me to best understand and best conceptualize and best outlive that relationship that I have with Jesus. I have been to many other churches, believe me, and this is the one that is the schema that works for me to understand that. I do believe there is truth in this religion that I would lose if I abandoned this religion. And for me, I'm staying as long as I believe that, as long as I feel that. Many of my friends have left. I've stayed to try and give voice, but I'm hoarse now. And this is it. How many years?
This comment here that I've got up on the wall is from Nerily.
Oh, wait, I just want to say to that, there's also, I would like to challenge people. oh, we've been working on this for decades, kind of shifts the personal responsibility that I think leaders have. And they say, oh, I didn't change it, but neither did the one before me and he believed it, and neither did the one before me and he believed it. No, it's you. Now's the time. I just, if you get a chance to see this, sirs who are in charge, you are the moment. You are the man. Do it.
A high-level leader said to me last night when I asked him, well, if you believe all that, why don't you come on my show? He said, my saying something wouldn't change a thing.
But it
And I
does.
said,
You are the leader.
your
You
voice
are a
doesn't-
leader.
Yeah.
You're saying something is what we need. Find your courage.
Yeah. And be proud.
Imagine being a leader and saying my voice wouldn't change anything. Quit your job, sir. If your voice changes nothing, then what are you doing with your life?
I know. Oh, wow. The irony. I just want to.
That really has thrown me. I can't imagine living my life under the assumption that my voice meant nothing.
Yeah. But they're still getting their 200K a year plus perks.
Oh, but do you know what? They deserve that. They earn that. You know, you do the job. But the job is leading us. So, sir, take the money and do the job.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Goodness me.
You can't make this stuff
How
up.
have we beaten down this poor man's sense of agency and aliveness? Like, what is going on? Guys, we're a church who can do things. We're powerful people. Your voice means everything.
I know.
Oh,
I
I'm
know.
really thrown by that. That's actually really flustered me.
Yeah. This one I've left up here is from Nerily Smith Dobson. I know she won't be sharing because she's written it with her name on it in the group. And it's so true. The majority of Adventist women won't boycott. The ones who care will leave. And the 6 messages I got yesterday were all from women. They're all from women who've tried really hard for decades. They were all women in their 50s, and they're leaving. And I think it's sad because I'm not suggesting people leave. I'm suggesting that people like yourself stay and speak up. But
I will say, I think people think you're trying to lure everyone into leaving, and never once.
You're right. Yeah.
Never once. And I've talked to you many times over a long period of years now. Never once have you tried to encourage me to actually leave the church. Not once.
No. Thanks for noticing that. Not that I was even intentional. I just don't even think it, so I don't even have to.
But I don't know. It's also, I find it such a weird mentality. If you don't love it, you'll leave. No, I'm here. I'm in it. You know, I want it to change. Adventism is my family. It is my home. It is a part of my identity. There's no leaving that for me. If I see things to criticize, that doesn't mean I have to leave. It's not like, oh, this is what's on offer. You have no impact. I firmly believe we have an impact.
What is it
dare to be a Daniel? Do you know what I mean? Where are all these people standing up?
Yeah, there's plenty of Danielles in the lion's den, but where are the Daniels? Hey, Gwen Wilkinson Slight has written this one, and I just wanted to comment on it because it's funny, and also there's a serious side to it. Many of my friends have left. I've stayed to try to give voice, but I'm rather hoarse now. And to me, that ties back into these Daniels. They're not hoarse at all because they're not saying anything in public. And let's say that these 3 or 4 people that I've been told have spoken up publicly in support. Well, they're the kind of exception that proves the rule there.
I'm sorry, it's pitiful that we're hearing 2 or 3 names.
Yeah. Be bold. Stand up. This is a nice comment to you here. Rochelle's comments need to be spread far and wide. This is a tipping point. I hope our leaders are listening to this wise lady. She is not the enemy. We need less spin from our leaders and more engagement in the real.
Spin is the way we get. I think we get spin.
Yeah. Less spin from our leaders and more engagement in real world issues. And that's what I was saying on my post when I spoke into this about the smooth operators. They are smooth. They're being they're put in a position where the template requires them to be Adventist apologists. I remember at Avondale College when I was there in the early 80s, oblivious to Glacier View and the whole Des Ford thing. Like, I knew Des Ford. He and Dad were lecturers on the campus at various times in the late 60s and in the 70s. But I just remember noticing a flurry of around 81 to 84 of overseas top-level leaders coming in and using that wonderful Adventist voice of Ellen White was a lovely lady. Look, flawed and
Not a
human
lot.
and
What I'm
frail.
saying is, she was quite an aggressive lady.
But what I mean is they've nailed how to kind of be smooth about being an apologist for Adventism. And I just think we are sick of it because we actually can cope with the reality of the negatives within the Adventist church. And it's okay. I don't think people would leave if the leaders were just open and honest about it. What if one of the leaders hopped up from the AUC and said, "Look, I personally support women's ordination. I think it'd be great. Can't wait for it to happen. It's not there yet. I have to toe the party line for a little while longer, but let's all hang in there." They're not even saying that.
I know.
So let's put some positive names on the table. Start getting me acclimatized to sharing names. Who are some of the positive Adventist leaders that you've heard, like Ray Rowenfeld, that are supportive of women's ministries, women in ministry, women's ordination?
Everyone is supportive to a point. Everyone is supportive to an extent, as long as it doesn't take the positions that these other men have been working towards. Someone has just said, and this couldn't be truer, women in ministry. Let's stop supporting women in ministry because that is a euphemism that is used to keep us in our place.
Where is that one?
It's a comment that's come up the top here, and I couldn't agree more.
Can you just read it? I can't see it on my thread.
They're always careful to use the words women in ministry, not women's ordination. And women in ministry is another euphemism for we'll give you this token.
Yeah, I remember someone saying that, wow, finally Glenn Townend has spoken up in support of women's ordination. And I thought, I don't ever recall that. And I looked and looked and looked, and finally someone sent me the link. But it was these words: he supports women in ministry.
Well, maybe that instead of what you said, get up at camp meeting and say, we're actually working towards women's ordination and here's what we're doing.
So your point there on it being a euphemism,
It is.
are they thinking that code word should satisfy us?
And this is why, Peter, I'm tired of it. And this is why I don't have the optimism that you are expressing here today, is because you don't use euphemisms unless you are actually covering something up.
Yeah.
You don't say women in ministry unless you are trying to placate people. You don't do that. These are silencing. That comment that I was reading out was words designed to make us feel like we are being heard, but very much promising that nothing is being done.
I think Adrian Rathel had said something as well along those lines. And for some reason, women do find solace in it. But I think when, like what you've just said there, a little light went on, when it's just seen as a euphemistic sort of term, it doesn't carry as much weight. What's my optimism?
Oh, well, you're saying sort of maybe this will be the moment where they move forward, etc., etc. I don't think anyone is moving forward until they are forced into it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm hopeful, though skeptical, that an OEP will come on the program and be the first. Someone wrote to me last night and said they would.
Did they do it without any conditions, or did they put limits on that?
I'm just trying to find their name, because I can speak of them because they're saying they will do it positively.
Who is this Rochelle?
It's a pastor.
Oh.
I think they're ordained. They're a young pastor. While we're chatting, I'll just see if I can find it. But
Honestly, good for them.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they do, because they will be the first. There is another one that wrote in voice somewhere in a labyrinth of comments, and I won't mention his name because I have asked him to be on the program, and he's high up in the union. And I said, so what you're saying there euphemistically, are you actually saying you do support women's ordination? Now, usually at that point when I challenge the leaders, like I did with one of them last night, so you do support women's ordination, it's crickets, it's silence. But this guy wrote back and said, yes, I do. And so I wrote back, would you come on my program and say that? And then I didn't hear anything else.
Yeah, but you don't live in that culture where if you know that you shouldn't speak up, it's because you have been warned somehow. Something in there is warning you. So no, this is not a culture that is ready to make this next brave step. This is a culture that is actively silencing, actively using doublespeak to hold us down, actively talking about out of both sides of their mouths, placating, and acting like the change is happening behind the scenes. And I'll say it again, it is not nice to perpetuate that kind of lie.
Yeah.
It is not, that's a lie. It is
Yeah.
not good. You are not a good man if you are presenting a false hope to us. You are not doing nice, good things. You are perpetuating abuse. You are excusing it. You are making space for it.
Say that again. That should become a meme.
I just, do you know,
You're
when my
using
children ask me for something and I say, oh, later, and I know that it's never going to happen. Do you know what I mean? I know what I'm doing. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm being lied to.
Yeah.
I don't think that's nice. I don't think that's good. And that doesn't take away from all the other nice, good things that they are doing, but you are lying to me. You are not believing in my equality. You are spiritually abusing me.
Mm. And this guy that said he's a bit sad and I was a bit harsh,
Oh.
I said, look,
I loved that man, by the way. He was so formative for me. I loved him, you know?
and I gave 50 years of my life not being in the slightest harsh, though quite a dissident at times with music. And yeah, it might be a bit harsh now. And I hope that you are feeling a bit sad. And when you saw Jan Paulson crying in tears, begging Ted Wilson to not go ahead with the compliance document, and he said, and Ted just goes, "Yep, thanks for your thoughts." Microphone 5. Didn't he seem sad about that too?
Just where's the courage? Sadness shouldn't be that we're speaking out about an abusive situation. The sadness should be on them, and they turn that shaming onto people who speak out instead of looking at themselves and understanding that the shame is allowing this to continue, of not recognizing our spiritual equality, of not opening up the kingdom.
Yeah, look, brilliant. Where I just want to give a little plug for the channel because it's since I've been supporting LGBT and women's ordination, I've lost all my donations and my people funding. And those of you that don't want to pay but do want to support, can you just click the subscribe button on YouTube or the like button on Facebook? You would be surprised how much that 1 second little thing you do really helps the algorithms and puts the program out further into the world.
Peter, I think you got an offer just then in the comments.
Oh,
I can't see who made it.
let's have a look. Go back to chat. Hang on, this is a male speaking up, is it?
Yeah, someone said they're willing to come and speak to you.
I do support women ordination, women in ministry, no double speak, and very happy to be public about it. I have a project I'm working on with a bunch of courageous men and women around the world that I believe will impact this conversation. I'll see who it is. Hang on.
It's Gilbert Kanji, and he's a
Oh,
former
Gilbert.
pastor of mine, and I could not be more thrilled. Well, please give me some hope. That's what I'm looking for here. Give me some hope, because you can hear I am not in a good space in terms of believing in my leadership right now. We also Like this photo really, I don't know why we are outraged and nobody who posted that was. It just should be a moment where people should have gone, oh, stop, that's a problem. And the shame is being turned on us and it shouldn't be. So someone who can come out here and be direct and honest, that would go a long way for me in bringing me joy.
And Gilbert Kanji is one of my favourite people. And
He's an amazing pastor.
yeah, I'd love that. And Gilbert's ordained,
Mm-hmm.
employed, pastor, 3. Oh, Gilbert, private message me. Let's make it happen next week if we can.
Oh, get on it. I think we should go this week. Let's make it timely.
Do it this afternoon, 3:30. Get in touch with me.
And honestly, Gilbert, if you could bring friends, if this could be a moment where men could actually speak to this, I would again be even more thrilled, because to me, the fact that there are not enough of you out there willing to do it is a huge red flag and is a huge problem. So if you could bring a few, and I believed that there was an actual leadership team genuinely doing things, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I would love it if your whole rest of the season was just men in leadership positions saying this stuff, Peter. That would transform our church.
Wow. The cajoling.
I challenge that. Bring a friend every week.
Friend, I like it. Look, I'm up for it. I am 100% up for it. And this
Peter,
is
I probably need to get going. I'm so sorry.
You give me 2 minutes,
Yes.
and I'll wrap it up. I just want to thank Litiana for this comment she's made. Litiana Turner, another wonderful leader in the evidence.
Yep.
Thank you for giving us all an opportunity to look at ourselves. Come on the show, Litiana. I'd love it. And I just wanted if you can, just one last quick thing, because this is hugely important. Someone's just written a quote up there. Rebecca Watts has said, when the GC will discipline people who speak out for women's ordination, the silencing comes from them. And I just want to highlight that the other frame that this is all in is that Ted Wilson and his cohorts put the compliance document together. It passed. It went into policy. Warnings were given, and 6 unions were warned. And these guys were in tears. What is going on? And Ted Wilson has set this framework to silence the leaders. And people say it doesn't affect us at a grassroots level. Yes, it does. There are 5 or 6 things in that compliance document. It's in play. What are they waiting for? That's not going to go away. They're hoping for new leadership like Jan Paulsen to come back in. What are your thoughts on the compliance documents? Because women ordination is one of the things they have to comply to, and not have women ordained.
The way you defeat a compliance document is that you get a bulk of people who will not comply. And that's what our silence is damaging. They cannot punish everyone. Why are we not standing? It is unethical and wrong to punish people for standing on a frame of equality. That is unethical and wrong. And everyone in this division, everyone in Australia understands that. Everybody gets that, right? So where are we standing on that? Why are we not pushing back against that, right? But I will also say that no, these issues are not just coming from the General Conference. Do not push the blame up that high. There are men talking to each other in corridors, and that's where a lot of this shaming is coming from. There are a lot of whispered at the next session comments coming at people, and that is where the shaming is coming from. It is happening by these nice men to each other.
Yes. So parting words on the picture, parting words on the post.
I do just want to address here, a comment has come through that I disagree with quite strongly. I do not see the term women in ministry as a less than adequate euphemism. The reason that's a less than adequate euphemism is because women in ministry is not equality. It is not equality. It is asking women to do the same work without the same recognition. That's not equality. It is using language that pretends that you are working towards equality without it actually being equality. That's a problem. That's an actual problem. Incorporation without recognition is not equality, right? And to say that this is God's right to choose who will lead is refusing to acknowledge the barrier that you are putting in place by saying that there is a gender barrier to God's choices in how we will be leading this church officially and administratively. That's the kind of speak that I'm really pushing back against. And I really feel so strongly that to pretend that this is God's choosing about who has the right to lead is exactly the kind of deceptive, shaming discussion that shuts this down. It's a no from me. It's a heavy no from me. I do not accept that when we put human barriers into that scaffold, that's God's choosing.
Yeah, and that's from Peter Marks, and Peter Marks will be on the program in a few weeks sharing his opposition to what we're saying as well. Hopefully, Peter, if you...
I hope I didn't just ruin that with my very strong and targeted words there. But honestly, it's time I stopped being polite about this.
He is one of the ones speaking up. He's showing that he disagrees, like Blair Lemke, who I disagree with what Blair says, but I respect that Blair is speaking up. Have you got some thoughts on Blair Lemke?
Couldn't disagree more with what's being said, but I really respect that at least these people have the courage of that conviction. That's fantastic. Like, let's have the discussion. I'm robust enough to have this discussion. I'm not weak. I'm not oppressed. Neither are you. Let's have this discussion.
One last thing, Bethany Chapman, who I'd love to have on the show as well, she's added to what Gilbert had said. I'll just find it. In the context of what Gilbert said about people getting together, they're also addressing some history and difficult texts theologically about women in leadership. I just can't. Oh, there it is. It has.
Yeah. So a project highlighting women's leadership role and addressing it. That's great. That's great. You know, we've had those kinds of projects, and I love that this is the leadership that Bethany is taking on this issue. That's fantastic.
And so we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for speaking with such clarity, Rochelle. Someone else has written. And any parting words, or will we say farewell till next time? We'll have a part 2. Can't wait. Hey, let's do a part 2 in a few weeks where we can look back on if people have come forward.
Yes, I would love a couple of weeks, and then hopefully I will not be so constrained. But thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone. We'll see you very soon.